This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
And good morning and welcome to Saturday. Today is Saturday, September the 16th, 2023, and this, of course, is the Dr. Sem Yankees Show. I am Paul Semendinger, and I am the editor-in-chief of the great Yankee site Start Spreading the News. On Start Spreading the News, we cover the Yankees every single day. And we've been covering them every single day since 2017. Yes, we've been around longer than Aaron Boone has been manager of the Yankees, if only by a few weeks. But yes, we've been around longer than him. And he takes winters off, as do all baseball players and managers. We do. And for every day, for that entire time, we have been producing and providing original content free on Start Spreading the News for Yankee fans. In that time, we've reached well over 3 million different page views. It is one of, if not the very best and most comprehensive and most original site out there on the internet. So, as I always begin, let's make today a great day. We have within us the ability to make every day great. The simple way to do it is to look for the good, because there's good everywhere if we look hard enough. You know the old saying, just stop and smell the roses. Look for the good things in life. And of course, if things seem pretty bad in your life and in your world right now, and you say, I can't find any good, well, then you can make good. Go do something great. Go do something for someone else. You know, when we think beyond ourselves, we often do things that make other people appreciative or happy or make their lives better. And then guess what? You found the good. You've created the good. So I'm recording this last night. It's Friday night. The Yankees just finished their game and they won over the Pittsburgh Pirates 7-5. When I last checked, the Red Sox were losing to the Toronto Blue Jays, which means that the Yankees will be in fourth place and the Red Sox in last place in the American League East. Should we celebrate the fact that the Yankees are not in last place? No, we should not. The 2023 season for the Yankees was a lost season in many ways. Many ways. Over this winter, we're going to have the opportunity to talk about what went wrong, and we'll have the opportunity for me to share my perspectives, viewpoints, thoughts, and ideas about how the Yankees can get better in 2024. We've seen the Red Sox this week get rid of Chaim Bloom, the man who is their big baseball decision maker. We saw the Mets hire David Stearns to be their new baseball decision maker. And we heard that the Yankees are considering going and waiting until the season is over to just maybe possibly bring in a private firm to analyze the Yankees team, decision-making, franchise, organization, whatever. Let's think about that for just a moment, please. The Yankees, and I keep pausing because I want this to sink in. The Yankees, who have had a terrible year, are basically saying the Yankees decision makers, the ones who run the franchise, the ones who make the decisions, are basically saying, we're not sure why the season didn't work. We don't get it. We are so confused that we who created this mess have no idea what we did, how we did it, why it turned out this way. And so we are going to need to hire an outside agency to tell us what we did wrong. The Red Sox, meanwhile, are addressing their needs. They're making decisions, right or wrong, correctly or incorrectly, getting rid of people who didn't perform as they wanted them to. The Mets are going out and getting the guy who, by many accounts, is the brightest young mind in baseball to run their baseball organization. And the Yankees, they're going to maybe possibly kind of think about asking some other person, some other agency, some other analyst group to figure out and tell them what went wrong. Which of those teams seems like they have a clue? Which of those teams seems like they have it under control? Certainly not the Yankees. Let's just think about this for a moment. If you're being paid millions of dollars, or maybe if you're not Brian Cashman, the other people in the decision-making realm of the Yankees, if they have to be making lots of money, whoever they are, if you have a part of your organization that's designed to figure out how to put the best club on the field, and you just suffered from a bad season following a terrible second half from the season before, so it's really been a season and a half of misery and poor play. And if your decision makers don't understand why that happened, isn't that an indictment of the decision makers? The moment an organization says that the people we have in the decision-making roles, the moment that an organization says that those people don't know what the problem is, they don't know where it went wrong, and they don't know how to fix it, that's basically disqualifying those people from remaining in those positions. No? What am I missing? I, as the GM, hired players or managers or coaches. They didn't work out. I built a team. It didn't work out. That means that I made bad decisions in order to build that team and to hire those coaches and to bring in that manager or whatever the case may be. I should be smart enough, insightful enough, reflective enough to look at that team, those decisions I made, and say, oh, those decisions, or some of those decisions, some of that thinking didn't work. I thought this way, it didn't work. That's where the mistake was made. Or I thought those different ways, those are where the mistakes were made. So I have to change my thinking. This isn't rocket science. But the Yankees are saying, as other teams are addressing the issues they have, but the Yankees are saying, we don't really know how we did a bad job. Remember, at the end of last season, Brian Cashman said, we don't really look to results, which is baloney. In sports, that's all you look at is results. Did you win or did you lose? That's all it's about. But anyway, he said, we don't look at results. We look at the process, and our process is sound. I said it at the time. I wrote it at the time. Many times I've written it since. We knew for years that the process wasn't sound. We knew for years that the Yankees' decision-making was very, very, very flawed. This year, a couple weeks ago, Brian Cashman said, yeah, we've had a pretty bad year. It's been bad, but no one could have seen this coming. Again, yes, we did. I've been saying it all year. I've been saying it here. Go back in the archives. Go to Start Spreading the News and type in the Dr. Sem Yankees Show and watch every episode. I've been saying it. There's a lot of problems with this team. I've been writing it. I've been writing it for years. Brian Cashman isn't able to realize that Yankee teams are built with great left-handed power hitting. I wrote articles on this. He doesn't realize that? I do as a fan. I'm not getting paid by the Yankees. They don't give me a penny. Nor should they, I guess, because I'm highly critical this year of them. Of course, I do love them. They're the Yankees. They're my favorite team. But how can I, as an outsider, see this? And how can I, as an outsider, have known this for years and written about it for years? But the Yankees, the decision makers, the people who are being paid big bucks, millions of dollars, can't figure this out. They can't figure it out so much that they have to hire an outside agency, but not now. We're going to wait until after the season is over to reflect and see where it all ended up. And then we might hire an outside agency who can help us figure out where we went wrong. I mean, does this make any sense? The whole thing, it makes no sense. A smart organization says we know where we made the mistakes. A smart organization says we messed up. A smart organization says we should have never traded Jordan Montgomery. Again, I said it at the time. They traded Jordan Montgomery for a guy to play center field who was injured and has been injured a lot in his career. They traded a pitcher, a left-handed pitcher, at a time when the Yankees needed pitching for a guy who was on the injured list and wouldn't play for weeks. And somehow, Brian Cashman thought that was a smart play. A starting pitcher who was pitching every fifth day and was better than league average, and getting rid of him so that they could get a center fielder who can't play, whose game is predicated on running and speed and athleticism, and a guy who had an injury to his foot, which they were having trouble diagnosing why it was so bad, and who was frequently injured. They traded a pitcher for a guy who was hurt and couldn't play for weeks. On its face, it makes no sense. It made no sense. And the Yankees' argument, and we went through this at the time, the trade was made in August. The argument that the proponents of the trade kept saying was, well, Jordan Montgomery won't pitch in the playoffs anyway. The Yankees have no role for him in the playoffs. My response to that was, how can the Yankees in August know that they don't need a guy in October? They couldn't know that. It's impossible to know that because you don't know who's going to get hurt or who's going to be ineffective. And at the time, the Yankees needed pitching. They needed more pitching. And what did they do? They got rid of a left-handed pitcher. The other thing, or another thing, that great Yankee teams are built with great left-handed starting pitching. So they had a great, or a very good, he wasn't great, but they had a solid left-handed starting pitcher, and they traded him for a guy that was injured. What happens? Well, the next year, the guy who was injured, the Yankees just release him at the end of August and get nothing in return. What also happens is after Jordan Montgomery's traded, the Yankees, or thereabouts, I forget the exact timeline, but the Yankees, I think it's after, I'm almost certain, trade for Frankie Montas, a pitcher, because they needed pitching. So they got rid of a pitcher to get a pitcher, but a left-handed pitcher they had to get a right-handed pitcher who, again, was hurt. But they traded the left-handed pitcher to get a center fielder who's oft injured and wouldn't be playing for a couple of weeks anyway. The Yankees need to hire an outside agency to figure out how messed up that trade was, how silly it was, how horrible it was. They couldn't figure that out on their own. If they can't figure that out on their own, that's saying that there's a problem with the decision-making. If you're Hal Steinbrenner, you call in Brian Cashman and you say, tell me the mistakes we've made this year. List them all right here. I want to know each and every one and how you're going to fix those mistakes. And if Brian Cashman's answer is, well, we have good process, no one saw this coming, then you say, I'm sorry, Mr. Cashman. You've had a nice career. We are going to give you a monument in Monument Park someday, not immediately. But obviously, the job has passed you by. Obviously, you can't do the job anymore. You don't know what you did wrong? You don't know where the mistakes were made? How do you not know? You sit down with Mr. Cashman and you say, could you just walk through the Anthony Rizzo thing with me? Just help me understand where the decision-making went wrong. He was hitting great. He suffers a head trauma. He stops hitting basically altogether, becomes the worst, if not or one of the worst hitters in baseball. And he's played regularly, travels with the team, in and out of airplanes, in and out of stadiums, in and out of hotels, while he has a concussion. And he doesn't perform, and you play him for 9 weeks. And then you finally address the concussion. And it's so bad, the after effects, that the guy never plays again the rest of the year. This is absurd. This is absurd. So if you're Hal Steinbrenner, you call Brian Cashman in and Aaron Boone, the manager who put the guy in the lineup for 9 weeks, and you say, can you please explain how that happens? You played him every day, and he was so bad that once we finally got him out of the lineup, he wasn't good enough, even with rest, to make it back into the lineup the rest of the year. Explain that to me. Explain the decision-making. You keep saying you have good process. Explain the decision-making that led to playing this guy every single day for 9 weeks. I'm listening. Explain why you got rid of Jordan Montgomery. Explain why you let Jose Trevino not hit for a long time and play with a wrist that, needed season-ending surgery. You need an outside agency to figure out these mistakes? You need an outside agency to realize that the Yankees tried Greg Allen, Billy McKinney, Jake Bowers, Oswaldo Cabrera, Franchi Cordero, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Aaron Hicks. There's probably more. Billy McKinney, did I say him? On and on. All these different guys as the left fielder, because they never went out, even though people were saying it. We were saying it. Even though people were saying it all winter long, the Yankees need a left fielder. The Yankee apologists who wrote in to start spreading the news would say, When I brought it up in November, they'd say, well, it's November. There's still time. So then when I'd mention it in December, they'd say, well, it's December. The off season has plenty of time. And when I bring it up in January, they'd say it's not even spring training. When the Yankees didn't get a left fielder at the beginning of spring training, they said spring training lasts for weeks. When the Yankees didn't get a left fielder to start the season, they said the season just started. Wait till the trade deadline. Trade deadline came and went. The Yankees never got a left fielder. They finally got an outfielder after they got rid of Harrison Bader, who they traded Jordan Montgomery for. That was their superstar, prized possession player, their great future star, Jason Dominguez. He tells the staff that my elbow hurts, and they play him anyway. And now he is going to have Tommy John surgery. Ask those decision makers, can you please explain how this happens? That our star prized prospect complains of having an injury and you play him anyway after you did the same thing to Jose Trevino and after you did the same thing to Anthony Rizzo and who knows who else. You need an outside agency to tell you that mistakes were made and you can't figure out yourself that those mistakes were made. Even though there are people like me, and not just me, plenty of people who are saying the Yankees need a left fielder. Something's wrong with Anthony Rizzo. Something's wrong with Jose Trevino. You don't play a guy when he's hurt. You need left-handed power on the Yankees. You need left-handed pitching on the Yankees. But the Yankees can't figure out any of that, they're saying. And they can't do it in real time. That's the other problem. Well, we can't fix this while it's happening. We just can't. Why don't they hire the agency now? Why didn't they hire the outside agency 5 weeks ago? Why aren't they constantly reassessing what they do on a daily basis? Why aren't they having organizational meetings? Why aren't the people who make these decisions being asked to explain those decisions to the owner and the general partners? And why aren't those people saying at some point, you know, this isn't good enough? The Yankees used to be about winning World Series. And the irony is they keep selling us as the fans on the fact that they've won so many World Series, even though they haven't even been to a World Series since 2009. They've already lost an entire generation of kids who might have grown up like me in 1977, watching the Yankees in the World Series and becoming a Yankee fan for life. They've already lost a whole generation because they haven't been to the World Series. So why aren't there people in the Yankees decision-making, in the general partners, the owner, saying, you know what? We used to be about winning World Series. Now we're all about, well, we've had a 500 record so many years in a row since the early 1990s. We make the playoffs most years, get beat in the playoffs and get humiliated and look foolish there, but we make the playoffs. We're a 500 team every year. That's not the Yankee way. That's not acceptable. That's not what the fans go to Yankee Stadium and pay the high exorbitant prices for everything Yankee related to see and to be part of. The Yankees sell shirts that say 27 World Series championships on them. They don't sell shirts that say whatever it is, 28 consecutive years, 33 consecutive years, whatever it is, of a 500 record. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's about winning. When Brian Cashman said, it's not about results, it's about process, at that moment you call him into your office and you say, wait, what? This is a sport. It's a professional sport. Nobody remembers the losers. We sell our product, the Yankee brand, based upon us being winners. That's what we do. That's what we are. If we're not winning, we're losing. We're not enhancing our brand. Please tell me why it's acceptable that we haven't been to a World Series since 2009 and what you're doing right this minute to make the team better. What's your short-term goals? What are your long-term goals? How are you going to get from point A to point B and from point B to point C? And how are you going to get this team to a World Series? It's something they have not delivered on. since 2009. And they have to bring in an outside agency to figure this out. They can't figure this out themselves, and they can't figure it out in real time. They have to wait until the season's over. Isn't this amazing? Absolutely amazing. Boy, I was going to talk about internet sites behind paywalls like ESPN Insider. The New York Post now has articles behind paywalls, the Daily News, the New York Times, the Bergen Record. You can't read The Athletic. The Yankees have put 1 million games on pay-per-view and Peacock and Apple and Amazon and all of these different varied sites. I have some thoughts about all of that, some deep thoughts, but I don't really have the time to get into that. So I may make a special episode of the Dr. Sem Show, just focusing on that as a major topic. I also want to show you some cool baseball things I have. People like to ask about the things that are behind me on the shelves. This is one of them. I'd like to tell the story behind this. Of course, I have a collection of wonderful books. If you haven't read them yet, you're missing out. Impossible is an Illusion? That'll motivate you. My parents just met somebody who read Impossible is an Illusion, was dealing with a terrible loss in the family, and said it was that book that brought her peace and comfort. They're motivational, they're inspiring essays that I wrote basically originally to my staff of teachers when I was a principal before I retired. But I rewrote them all and geared them for a general audience. The stories are about hard work and love and being your best and understanding other people. It's about how to make each day great. You really want to pick up a copy. I think you'll enjoy it. Impossible is an Illusion. Of course, I have a wonderful novel, Scattering the Ashes. We've talked a lot about that. The Roy White book, a person just wrote to start spreading the news, told me he just read the book, said, I loved it, said it's so great, and thanked me for writing it. And then that same person went out and read The Least Among Them and said, my goodness, you did it again, Paul. You wrote another great book. So thank you. And thank you always for all the positive comments. And thank you always for watching and listening. Wish we had more time. There's so much more I want to talk about, but we'll have to save it for the next time. In the meantime, I hope the Yankees can figure out what they did wrong. It's not that hard. If they need help, I guarantee you I would work for the Yankees at a much lower price than any of those analytic organizations. Guaranteed, I could save the Yankees millions of dollars because I have the answers, as do our staff here at Start Spreading the News. We can figure this out. We already have the answers. It's readily apparent. I don't know why the Yankees themselves can't figure it out. And again, if they can't figure it out, that in and of itself says that they shouldn't be making the decisions. That would be the first thing I would say as the analyst. Thanks for hiring us. Rule number 1, or here's the first order of business: fire everybody. If they couldn't figure out what they did wrong, obviously they shouldn't be making the decisions. All right, my friends, thanks again for watching. Have yourself a happy and wonderful and terrific day. Remember, make your day great. And the way to do it is by helping and being kind and loving and caring about other people. Enjoy.